So, Elle, thank you for joining me for an episode of Happy Days with Callum Church. It's awesome to have you on because I have been meaning to get you on for a little while. Do you want to just
Thanks for
introduce
having me.
yourself? Yeah, you're welcome. Do you want to just introduce yourself to the audience and let them know a little bit about you? What do you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Eloise and I've met Callum through doing my own platform for people in their 20s. And so I've been on top of my full-time job, I've been managing an online platform across TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook for 20-something-year-olds to kind of just say that there's not any path you should be following in life. You can don't follow any set structure and just try and live your 20s to the full, without the pressures that seem to be incoming all the time.
So how did you first set that up? Like where'd that come from? You know?
So it actually came from after university. I was feeling quite lost and I wanted to get back into something creative when I couldn't find a job. And I saw that BBC Derby were doing auditions for what I thought would be a radio host. And from there, I auditioned for that at Radio Derby and Sheffield. And you had to pitch an idea for your own show, a one-off show. And I came up with what was then Talking Twenties, but I've since had a rebrand. And I pitched it for 60 seconds and I got down to the final five, which has meant that I can still volunteer at Radio Derby. So it's had a lot of perks to it. But when I didn't win, I still thought I really enjoyed all that process of like pitching the idea and just the thought of people listening. So I was actually supposed to make my own podcast, but a year later, it's still just a platform. But I've just been focusing on building the platform and like really connecting with people in their 20s.
Mm. What sort of drives you and like what makes you want to set that up in the first place? Because obviously you had the idea from the little like radio stuff that you were doing.
Yeah.
But like what's behind it? Like is that, are
I
you
think,
creating it for your past self almost, or other people that would have been in your position?
yeah, I think I'm always someone that I've known that I want something that's my own thing to work on. So not necessarily just a job. I've always wanted my own thing that I can grow and like be proud of. So that's definitely one reason. Throughout uni, I'm always trying to think of like little business ideas, and my friends would let you know that I pitch so many things as I'm going to go for it, and then it just never would get anywhere. And this is like the one thing that I've stuck by and I've just kept going with. So I think that's a part of what drives me. But also, yeah, I think coming out of university, I'm feeling like these like post grad blues, like no one warned you for, and like this complete switch of your life. And like now you really are an adult. And there's like no rule book for it. That was definitely a drive because I felt it so intensely, and so did my friends. And I thought, there's nothing really talking about this from what I could see, so I just went for it.
Yeah. Why do you think so many people like struggle from that? You know, like people our age? Because like, I felt it as well. I'm just interested to hear like your perspective, like because I've got my own ideas about the school system, right? I'm not much
Mhm.
of a fan of the way that the education system is set up at the moment.
Yeah.
So I put part of the blame down to that. But like, why do you? What's your perspective on that?
I think because at university, especially, you're, I don't know, everyone's obviously got a different university experience, but for the people around me, it was just such a social hub. And you're really independent, and you've got your summer, you've got your Easter breaks, you've got your Christmas breaks, and then all of a sudden you're thrust back into actually having no money, and you actually need it now, living with your parents, and your independence is gone. Your social life's gone back to just being back to being a weekend, like at school times, but just relying on your weekends to make things fun. And all the good things about university have kind of been stripped from you. And this is something that pains me to think about, but you can't recreate university,
Mm.
that those 3 years, as much as you could try and do a master's. Like if I jump back into a master's now, not everyone's there that made my university experience. Even those small people that aren't your bestest friends, they're not there anymore. And it's not the same. Those 3 years, they're gone, and it's quite hard to just I remember those first few months, I was like, it's quite hard to realize like the people that in the year below, they've still got it and you're a bit jealous. So quite a lot of emotions. Yeah.
It's hard to let go, isn't it? It's hard to move on, you
Yeah.
know, sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
It's a bit of a breakup.
yeah, it is because it's a certain lifestyle that you're living. And I
Yeah.
sometimes I get this from like thinking back to like when I was a kid. Like sometimes I sit here and I think, shit, I'm never ever going to be a kid again, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad because it's like
It's a
I'll never be
very
able
similar feeling.
to I'll never be able to like have a happy meal, you know, justified again, or like, you know, like stupid stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. No, I get you. Like I think they're quite similar feelings. You kind of hit the nail on the
Nail.
head there. Got that. But yeah, they're very similar feelings. Just you can't recreate it no matter how hard you try. But you've kind of just got to look forward, and this is what my page is about. You kind of got to look forward and know it's a bit of a sad thought to think they're going to be the best 3 years of your life. Everyone says some people don't enjoy uni, but most people say uni are the best 3 years of your life. But like that's really, in my eyes, a sad concept, because if they're the best 3 years of my life and I'm only leaving at 2021, it's like this. I'm not looking at it like that, because I really hope they're not the best 3 years of my life.
Yeah, literally like only a quarter of the way through your life and the rest of it's just
Yeah,
downhill from there apparently. But that's the thing, like
exactly.
you kind of put yourself in a box otherwise if you think like that, you know.
Yeah,
If you keep looking back and like looking into the past all the time, how the hell are you going to be happy in your future, right? Or in your present,
yeah,
at least,
yeah,
anyways. So
exactly.
what's some of like the key stuff that you talk about on the page? Because I know you're in a lot of different places. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you've got groups and stuff going on.
Yeah,
And it's not all just about following uni. It is truly
the
for the
whole.
20s through it, you
Yeah,
know. There you go. I totally
got
unintentional
it.
that. Yeah. So what other stuff do you sort of talk about in there?
So a lot of stuff that gets sent in is about relationships in your 20s. We do a confessions thing where people send in anonymous confessions, and most of them are about relationships or how people feel lonely in their 20s. So not necessarily talking about just like partners, like your significant other, talking about relationships with family and friends. So a lot of people are feeling quite lonely, or like they're realizing that the friends they're with, that they're quite toxic. So we have a lot of that. And then on the other side, and I think we've both spoken about this, a lot of people speak about like how stressed or anxious they are, and like burnout. And we spoke about burnout for me and you. So we've done like content on like how to manage being burnt out. And a lot of the content I make is, because I'm a 20-something-year-old, I'm 22. A lot of the content I make is like stuff that I need to read as well. Like I go back through my Instagram sometimes where I'm stressing out, and I'm like, let's go to the content I made
Yeah.
and see what I've advised other people. But the good thing is that I've got a group of people that help me. So because I'm 22, but I don't know everyone's perspective of being in their 20s. So it's good to have one, hear from the people of the page, and also to hear from my group, so that we're getting a range of perspectives. So for example, when I was in a relationship, which was when I first started the page, I didn't have any content when I didn't have my group about relationships and like breakups, because I wasn't going through it and it wasn't the first thing that came to mind. So when I started asking more from the audience, and then I went through a breakup myself, it was like, right, I understand now that I can see that I've not been putting that content out because it didn't relate to me, and that's not what I wanted the page to be. So that was a big eye opener for me.
Relationships, right? I was listening to a podcast earlier. It might have been last night actually, and in which they said that it's really difficult to date in your 20s apparently. And I was sort of sitting there thinking like, is it, you know, like when you're young, you know, most people are on the market, you know,
Yeah,
but they said that it's quite difficult. And obviously a lot of the people that you follow and a lot of the content which is structured in your pages is
yeah.
structured around relationships and struggling with relationships, you know, or maybe getting better at relationships, handling relationships. Why is everyone struggling so much with this?
See, I think what everyone says, like now no one really comes up to anyone, well, especially in COVID times. No one really puts themselves out there to people. So it is definitely, I only see it now as being kind of online dating, like all these social media apps, which some people don't like. And a lot of them are like dead conversations and they don't go anywhere, and it gives people like less hope. So I think this is another thing of how it's easier at university to then coming out of it. So university is surrounded by people your age constantly. You've got the union, you've got nightclubs, and you're in a social hub of people your age. Soon as you leave and in your working environment, it's like you're not, yeah, you might be surrounded by people at work, but you're not in that same kind of situation. And I do think, I was thinking about this earlier, do you think dating in your 20s is quite hard because there's quite a lot of pressure on it? So obviously some relationships from school do last forever, but it's not that, it's not a majority, like a minority of people that get together in their teens stay together. So it's like, I was in a long relationship when I was in a teenager, and when it ended, as much as it was like heartbreaking, I was like, right, well, was it going to last forever? I was part of the minority anyway of it to like make it through. So now in your 20s, when you meet someone, it's a bit of this pressure, because it's like, oh well, some people actually meet the person they're going to be with in their 20s. Like a lot of people want to get married by their late 20s, baby, like all these like these timelines that people have created. So I think there's quite a lot of pressure on it to start finding the one you want now, so that you can be with them for a certain amount of time and like have this ideal timeline of your relationship. So, yeah.
But that's not how life works, right? You know, like nothing's going to go to plan. I think a lot of the time we sort of like, well, you'll know anyways, like when it comes to everything, you know, socially, career wise, you know, physically, mentally, nothing goes to plan. You sort of fall into a lot of different stuff, you know, like
I've definitely worked that out.
like over the past few years, like I was figuring this out the other day, like 2 years ago, I was a lifeguard, like scooping poo out of a pool, you know, and now it's like I'm running my own podcast focused at personal development. It's like the change in me as a person, both personally and professionally, has been massive, you know, and that just doesn't just apply to that applies to relationships and everything that spans the whole life of a 20-something-year-old, you know.
And I think it's crazy how much things can change in 2 years or even months, a space of weeks. Like things can change so dramatically, like you said, about you as a person, about the situation around you, especially. And I do think in your 20s, like things do change quite quickly. You can be in a job that you absolutely hate, and within weeks your life could completely change. And especially with people like setting up, I think in lockdown there was a big spike in people creating their own like side hustles and side businesses. It's like you really have the power in your 20s to kind of like change your direction if you're not liking something. That's kind of one of the things I really love about your 20s. You don't know where you're going to be in a few weeks, in a few months, or a year.
It's fast paced, you know. It's like you're here, you're there. There's loads of different stuff going on, and it gives you, like, everyone says that your 20s are like the decade of testing and opportunity and trying lots of different things, figuring out who the hell you are as a person, you know. And everyone, like you say, everyone builds up these ideas, you know, which probably stem from your teenage years, you know, before you even get into your 20s. And then they build up an idea of, I'm going to get married at 25, I'm going to have kids at 28 or something, let's say.
That's exactly was my plan.
But you know, it doesn't always work that way. And I think when we get these ideas from like watching movies and stuff, right? Like romantic
100%.
comedies and stupid stuff like that. And that whole idea of relationships is so romanticized, as in you're suddenly going to be happy as soon as you get on track and you fit into a relationship, whether that relationship is good for you or not, just purely because we see other people on social media that are happy in relationships, even though behind the scenes it's probably a shit show. You know, there's so much pressure to get into a relationship. And I think we kind of need to break out of that, you know?
Yeah, I do see at the minute though, like with the hot girl summer and people like trying to just have an independent life. Like I have seen.
Can I just say, what is hot girl summer? Because I see everyone talking about this and I don't think many of the guys actually understand what the hell you guys are talking about.
Okay, so hot girl summer in my eyes is like you're on your own and you're dating multiple people. You're just really independent and just loving life with no one caring about what you do. You're just all for yourself, all about your own happiness, and you're like testing the waters with a few people, which is completely fine. So yeah, I think that's what it is. But I think lots of people have different perceptions, because someone sent in on the stories yesterday. We were doing the this or that, and it was someone put hot girl summer or summer romance, and that kind of changed my perception of what hot girl summer was, because I was like, can you not have a summer romance and have a hot girl summer? Because and that's why I think people have got a few different perceptions on it. Some people are like dating multiple people, like sleeping around kind of thing, just doing what you want. I was just seeing it as have all about me. Like I just want to have the best summer, no matter what that means. No one's getting me down. If anyone's steps into like breaks my boundaries, then they're out, kind of thing. But people have got different perceptions.
Sweet. So you mentioned burnout earlier, and that like relationships, it's something that a lot of 20-somethings struggle with. Why is that in your perspective?
So from my perspective as someone that's like one of my flaws, but also is one of my traits that I pride myself on, is how like goals driven I am. And I think quite a lot of us in our 20s are there's a career driven, like everyone's starting side hustles, everyone's really focused on their career. And I think that it's become such a hype these days to be so ambitious, and you see all these influencers doing so well with like their YouTube channels, and everyone wants a job and something else, and they're just trying to juggle too much. And I don't know, the aim for success, I think, is like I've always aimed for success, always, and like my mind's always on what can I do next, what can I do next. And sometimes just think you need to just sit back and kind of take in what you've achieved. So like the other day I achieved something that I've been going for ages, and I think I took it in for about 2 days, and I'm already stressed again this week. And I sat in the car today and I was like, you've not even really taken that in, you've just moved on to the next thing. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question. I think I went on a bit of a tangent.
No, it's right, because it's stemmed a really interesting conversation, because I've been thinking about success and what success is to me. And you know, you mentioned there that it seems like success to you is achievement, right? You achieved this thing the other day, and you enjoyed it for all of 2 days, and then you moved on to the next thing. And it's like we're always chasing, never appreciating the journey, never appreciating the ride. And for me, success is the ride, success is the journey. I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking, who's more successful? The guy who runs a marathon for the achievement, or the guy who runs because it just makes him just feel great? You know? The guy who runs the marathon for the achievement, like, what are you doing? You're putting yourself through all that pain for your ego. And then once you do that, obviously you're going to be on the next thing. But if you just enjoy it as it is, like enjoy the thing for what the hell it is, then you're in a good place, you know? What's success to you?
I think I only see success in myself with the page that I've started. So like, as soon as you say success, I in my life, I instantly go to Truly Twenties. It's like one of the only things that I focus on and I'm really proud of. So, but I don't really match success in that within numbers at all. Like, it doesn't make me happy that like when I reach a certain milestone, like, I mean, it's nice for a bit, but that's not what I see success as. I really don't see that in numbers. Success with my page I see as in like engagement, like connecting with people and like really hearing about people's stories. And like when I do quizzes, I feel like a failure if people don't join the quiz rather than the followers, if that makes sense. Like I'd rather meet people and like have that engagement. But yeah, I want to become more like yourself in like success is definitely the journey. And I do see that because I've really enjoyed the last year of the success of Truly Twenties. But I am still someone that I'm always going for that end goal. And I don't take time to like, oh, this took you so long to do, and you've done this, this, and this. Be proud of yourself.
Don't get me wrong. I flip-flop between the two all the time, right? Some days
Yeah.
I'll be sat there thinking, oh man, I'm loving this run just because it makes me feel good. And then other days I'm sat there dreaming about me passing the finish line in a marathon, you know, and
Yeah.
I flip flop between it all the time. And it's the same with everything I do, you know, even with work, I'll be
Yeah.
sat there like looking at other people, comparing myself to other people and thinking like, oh my God, like, you know,
Yeah.
like that really frustrating comparison where you're like jealous of these people. And it's just like, dude, like just sit there and enjoy where you're at right now, you know, because
Yeah. I think the lines got so blurry between if you're doing it for the end goal or doing it for like the journey or like just for pure happiness. And what's one thing like my best friend said to me when I was completely burnt out, like that was like, I've said, oh, I feel burnt out before, but like that was the first time I was like, I'm burnt out. I felt like I was going to like explode if just someone asked me a simple question. And she said to me, she's like, I thought like, for example, self-care, I thought I was doing that to be happy and like for pure happiness and just for me. And then she pointed out, she's like, your self-care is reading a self-development book. And she's like, you're not reading for fun. You're again reading to be productive. You're reading to like improve yourself. You don't do anything just to sit back. And when she said that to me, I was like, oh, I was like, that's so true. Like I'm either watching something on YouTube, how to improve my like Instagram or like learning different skill. Like, I've got it on my thing. Like I want to learn a language. It's like, why can't I just sit and enjoy something for not productivity?
I'm the same. I'm 100% the same. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I was saying to her like, "Oh, I haven't. I've only had 2 meals today. I skipped lunch or something." And she's like, "Why are you doing that? Like, that's not healthy for you. You need to eat regularly if you like, you know, if you want to be a healthy, fit person." And this is coming from someone who works on their personal development every day. He's got a fucking
Yeah.
podcast about it. You know, you'd hope that they'd be healthy.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What are you doing? Like, you need to focus on your health." So, you know, over the past few days, I've made, you know, fitness and health a priority, making sure that I eat my meals and have my
Yeah.
protein and do my workouts and stuff on time.
Yeah.
But again, it's just ambition gets in the way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the curse of being motivated and driven, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same
And
time, we've got to be motivated to do the both, you know.
yeah, and if it goes down like a bit of a toxic route, it will always come crashing. So I think, and I think we both understand now with like platforms, you've got to be consistent with it. So the minute that you're like getting a bit toxic with motivation, it will come crashing down, and then you're not consistent anymore. Like I've not posted on TikTok, and I see that as like if you don't post on TikTok, I think it does really like destroy like your engagement for like one day. I found that anyway. So it's like I burnt myself out so much, and now I've not posted on it for a few days. So it's like you be toxic productivity, and then it actually ends up kind of ruining like what you've worked for. So
Yeah,
you've got to find a balance. My friend keeps saying that you've got to find a balance, and I'm still definitely working on that.
it's so
I'm
hard
definitely,
though.
yeah.
It's so hard to find that balance. Like where is it, you know? And it.
Especially you go.
Well, I was just going to say, it only takes just that little bit more of like, oh, I just want to do this just to make sure that I'm ahead or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Just this little bit of ambition, and it
yeah,
just pushes you just over the edge, you know, and then you're
yeah.
fucked.
I do think it's been hard though in lockdown and like as everything's opening up again in the UK, because I think people's motivate, although I'm very motivated, like in lockdown it's hard to keep yourself motivated. So it's hard to stick to, right, well, I'm going to give myself 2 hours this evening and I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to shut my laptop, because that 2 hours ends up me on TikTok, me on like watching YouTube, not focused, and then it ends up all night I'm on my laptop. But I was kind of having a break in between because I was watching YouTube, and that doesn't count. So then, and now things are opening again. It's like balancing. Well, I personally started this whole thing at the start of lockdown, so now I've got this extra balancing social life, and then I've not got the focus motivation that I probably would have if I was in an office. So it's like balancing all of this together, and I'm just no time. There's just no time.
Do you get distracted a lot at home?
Yeah, so much. I think I'm just someone that one thing I need to work on is like social media. Well, it's so hard when you've got social media page or you want to stay engaged with people. So then you go on to Instagram, you're like, well, I'm just going to stay engaged. And then you find yourself on the phone for the next 2 hours. And some weeks I'm so good and I'm so productive. And I'm like, yes, this is a new me. And then this week, for example, absolutely horrendous. I just have fallen off my structure. I'm definitely someone that I thrive off structure. And like, I've definitely learned that so far in my 20s. The minute I don't follow it or it's taken from me, I'm not the same person.
Do you think we should accept the imperfections of, like our daily, like unticked to-do lists and
Yeah.
TikToks which haven't been posted and stuff like that? Do you
Oh,
think we should accept the imperfections?
yeah, I do. But when I say like I need to follow structure, I'd like to get to a point where I do always go on a run or something every day, or I do something that I know makes me feel better. And then I do 2 tasks that out of 500 a day. So I don't need to do everything, but like to keep because sometimes I could just lay in bed and then that gets me in like a low mood. I'm definitely someone that I can easily get into a low mood. I've always been like that. The minute that I have an excuse to stay in bed, I can get myself in a really bad mood. So I need to just get up, do my stuff in the morning, I guess, and then I can have the rest of the day to do what I want. But the imperfections, I don't really kick myself if I don't post on Instagram. I've not done it tonight. And it's like, as much as like I want my page to be a success, I don't think it's at a success point where someone would be like, where's the content? So that's a good place to be at.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that is because like I relate to everything you've said so far, in terms of being overly ambitious and sometimes being a bit toxic with it, like, and like, as you say, some weeks I'll be on top of it and then other weeks I'll just crumble, and
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know whether I need to, accept that I'm going to have a good week and then a shit week after and just get used to that and work around it, or if I should just try and keep on top of it, but in the process, maybe even burn myself out, because it's difficult.
Yeah.
You're juggling so
Yeah.
much at the same time.
And life gets in the way. I think it's a wave. I definitely have a few weeks where I'm completely on top of everything and I feel great. And then I kind of get used to being on top of it. And then slowly I get behind. I think as life goes on, I'll get more used to getting on top of it. And like you just said, keeping yourself like a little bit every week or so, keeping yourself like that. But at the minute for me, it's 3 weeks, 2 weeks being great and on top of my game. And then it's not like 2 weeks off my game, it's like a month. So it's like for the 2 weeks I'm good, there is like a month of just like catching up every day rather than being organized.
Yeah. What are some of your long-term goals or aspirations? I'm talking like 5 years, 10 years, 3 years if you want. The reason why I ask this question is because I find it really frustrating when people ask me this, because I do not have one clue what the hell I'm going to be doing in that period of time. I'm just kind of interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, and I get what you mean. If you'd have asked me this last year or like 2 years ago, I'd have given you a 5-year plan, 100%.
Yeah.
But seeing how much just Truly Twenties is in a year has taken off and has completely changed how my career is going to go. Because I didn't think I had that much to speak about in interviews or like on my CV until I've done Truly Twenties. It's taught me so much. So I get what you mean. Seeing how much Truly Twenties has given me just this 1 year, and I'm about to move on to a graduate scheme that's going to teach me loads. I just feel like I have no idea I'm going to be, but I would like to have, in 5 years, I would like to have gone traveling.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's something that is stressing me out already, thinking about what will I do Truly Twenties, but I need to do it for myself to actually show myself I can have 6 months out and just do what I want to do, like pure selfishness and pure happiness. Just do still goals, I guess, because I've got goals I want to do while I go traveling. God, I need to stop with the goals.
Wait, goals while you're traveling? What kind of goals are they?
Like I want to do, I think it's in Australia or New Zealand, but I want to do the highest bungee jump. So it's just like bucket list goals.
Yeah.
Which is always great. But in 5 years' time, I am very much someone that, like, I put on my stories last night the opposite, but someone called me out and they said, you're not like that. And I was like, that's true. I put on my stories last night that you shouldn't live to work. You shouldn't work to live. Which way is it? You
shouldn't work to live. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't live to work. You should work to live.
Yeah, it's confusing anyways. Forget about work, just live. Get busy living.
Yeah. I put the wrong one on last night, but I am very much like, you do work a lot of hours of the week, and I would like to be in a job that I really love, for a company that is doing good things. Like, I think at the end of the day, when I get older, I will want to be making a good impact. So, like, I'd love to be doing something that's always been close to, like, my heart. Is, if I had to pick a charity to work towards, it would always be homelessness and poverty in the UK, because it's just something that touches my heart every day, whereas people just walk past homeless people as if they're invisible. And I just think it's just so, like, it disgusts me. And I think I'd love to do something good and, yeah, make a positive impact. So I think in 5 years' time, I'd love to have made some kind of huge impact on some social cause, with whether that's with Truly Twenties and the platform, or whether that's in my full-time job. But that's really what's going to be rewarding at the end of the day. When someone said on a TikTok the other day, do something that makes your 5-year-old self happy and your 85-year-old self happy. And I think my 85-year-old self, when I get to that age, it will all be about, like, what kind of imprint you've left on the people around you.
So what's the bucket list then? You mentioned that you want to make social change and make a social impact. Yeah. You want to do a big fuck off bungee jump in Australia. What else is on the list?
Well, even, like, do you want to just hear, like,
everything?
Okay. So one of the things is 100% I want to swim in the cages with sharks, not with the sharks in the cages, you know.
Yeah.
I definitely want to go see the Great Barrier Reef before it sadly dies. If it does.
Do you think?
It does.
Oh, I think we can't let it die.
We can't.
I know it's bad, but I mean, I don't know.
See, I went on holiday too. This is like years ago, with my first boyfriend, when I was a teenager. I went to Egypt, and we were together about 3-4 years, and I went once at the start, and the ocean there was so colourful, so bright, so full of fish. Went the second time, it was a little less, not too dramatic, but then wherever I go now, I seem to go in the sea, and I just see, I know it was a nice place where we went to, but I just keep thinking it's just dying. It's like, there's no fish, the coral, it's all dead. When you look in the water, if you're in the shower, it's not nice or colourful anymore. And it's just so upsetting. So I would really like to see the Great Barrier Reef, and I hope it's still, like, bright and colourful and something nice to look at.
Yeah.
I'll try and think of my other ones now.
Yeah.
I definitely want to go to Indonesia. I'd like to go to Bali and the typical places like that.
Yeah. All the basic traveling destinations.
Yeah, I'd love to do, like, a full moon party in, like, Bali or something like that. Then other goals that aren't related to traveling is, I'd love to, like, hit, I think I could do this in the next 5 years though. I'd love to hit, like, certain milestones within my career. Like, I'd love to be a creative director one day. Like, I think that would be amazing, because that's, like, kind of dream direction that I'm heading. I'd like to have I'd love to have my side business that makes me money on the side, like something that's my own, that, like, in times like COVID, and, like, some people have left their jobs, it'd be something always to, like, fall back on. I've seen loads of people just, like, fall back on it, and, like, they've been a success through to, like, the power of TikTok. It's been great to watch.
So I just wanted to say, you mentioned a few times that you want to run your own thing on the side, you know, have your own little baby that you can work on. But yeah, each time when you've spoken about career, you've always mentioned yourself working for someone else.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, because you want to run your own page as well, or your own pursuits on the side. Have you never felt like much of an entrepreneur and wanting to start something big for yourself, you know, make that your main thing.
Yeah, and I guess that's a bit of me doubting myself, but I think as well, like, as much as, like, if I focused on Truly Twenties and it took off, and it could be like, financially it could just fund me like itself, and I wouldn't need a side thing. I do think being on your own, like, I guess if I had a podcast and I had a co-host, like, going into work, I found working from home like this last year so antisocial, and going into work and having workmates and having that like separate life, I think is so important. Even if I did it, if it took off, Truly Twenties, and that was my side business. If it took off, even if I did it part-time somewhere, just to have something separate and to actually go and have workmates, and or even, like I said before, if it wasn't a job and I worked for a charity and volunteered, like, I'd always want to go in somewhere and have that work friendship, and like that removal from your home life. I think I've as much as I've loved not getting up so early to travel in and saving money and petrol to get to work, it's not been fun social wise.
Mm. Do you, so are you saying that you like the variety that it brings into your life type thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think when you get older and you possibly do move in with someone, if you're, it's so important to have breaks, I think. So
Yeah.
in my last relationship, I definitely always prioritized my mum's always told me to prioritize my friends, and I always have. And it's like so important to have space from people. So I imagine when you move in with someone full time, that would be so important. So work would be a way of doing that. And I guess your side business, you could have your own office and you could leave that way, but you want to be surrounded by other people, and like your partner have their work lives and their friends, and you have your work life and your friends, and then you come together. I think that's, for me, that's my ideal healthy relationship.
Again, I think that's another one of the, like, the toxic traits of like people our age, is that they become so like wrapped up in each other, you know,
Yeah,
like as if a couple is supposed to have their own, you know, there's a couple's life. Like, no, that's two people's lives that come
yeah,
together and
yeah,
they make each other's lives better, you know. And I think
yeah.
like not enough
Exactly.
people do that, you know, don't focus on
No,
themselves.
I've always been taught that by my mum, like, to prioritize like myself and my friends, and never not do something I don't want to do just because someone else has come into my life. So traveling, for example, I met my last partner after I'd already decided I was going traveling, and I was still going. And like, although that's a bit stressful for a lot of relationships, and a lot of people would be like, oh, it's like, well, it either works while I'm there or it doesn't. But like, it's something in my life that when I get to 40, if I look back and I'm not even with that person, and I'm not, so it's like, if I'd have not gone, it's
Yeah.
like, I would have looked back at 40 and gone, I didn't do that for that person that actually was only like this part of like 2 years of my life.
Yeah, and the thing is, that person, if they're not committed to you enough to, you know, make that brief sacrifice for however long it
Yeah,
is that you go traveling, like,
yeah,
they're obviously not the right person for you anyways, you
exactly.
know.
That's
That
how
is
I felt. That's how I looked at it. I said it's either going to work or it's not going to work, and
mm,
that's just how it's obviously not that simple when feelings are involved, but it kind of has to just be that simple. If you want to do something and you've got someone else, and it's like you've got to think about their feelings. If it's something you've always wanted to do, you've got to do it. And just if it doesn't work, it wasn't meant to be.
yeah, but ultimately the most important person to everyone's lives is themselves, right? You know, you
Yeah,
can't put other people's feelings first, you know,
yeah,
unless it's really bad, you know, but you can't put other people's feelings first over your own feelings. That's the most important thing. We've all got to take care of ourselves first, you know.
yeah. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, then you actually can't take care of them anyway.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
someone commented back on one of my TikToks that was saying this, and they said something like, I hate this narrative that um everyone's got to be so selfish and just all about themselves. And I just was like, you can't actually look after someone properly or show anyone love if you don't show yourself love first, because
Mm,
it's just not going to work.
100%. Yeah. And also you need to respect each other enough to give each other space as well. My last relationship with my ex-girlfriends, that was killed because it was far too much for me. I couldn't couldn't deal with it, like constant texting, constant calls. It was like,
Yeah.
leave me alone, you know. And I said this, and that's like, there's loads of reasons why it didn't work out. It wasn't a very good relationship for me anyways, but you know, that was a large reason why it didn't work, you know.
Yeah.
And not enough people are thinking about this. They're not respecting themselves enough, or respecting
And
their partners enough,
yeah,
to make the relationship work, you know.
don't you think like going through those relationships has taught you so much for now? Because I think
100%.
breakups, even if they've not happened in your 20s, teach you so much about yourself. Like you're saying now that your last relationship didn't work because of like how intense it was. I think in my first relationship, I probably was the intense person. So then in my second relationship, I probably was. I think I was more infatuated with the person I was with than like in love. It was unhealthy. But then the second one, I very much was like, I felt like I was quite in charge, and like I had my own boundaries. I wanted my own space. I felt like in my first one, I didn't put my friends first. So this time, my friends always came first. And like, I'm really happy with how I was in my last relationship. And I obviously this one's taught me things again that I wouldn't do in the next things I would look for in the next partner. But I think breakups have genuinely like defined me as a person. And I think my friends would agree that if I'd not gone through my first breakup, which was horrendous, I'm like a complete new person.
Yeah, they say that that people have three loves in their life. Or obviously, people have more or less, but they say that
Yeah.
there's three. They say there's puppy love. I think it's
Yeah.
like toxic love or tough love or something, and then there's true love. And like it's said that you go through puppy love first, where you're just completely infatuated with a person, like you said, and obviously, you know, that must break down at some point because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Second of all, you have the toxic or tough love, where this is more like your first long-term relationship, where you know you will argue a lot with a person, you'll fight, you'll conflict with each other, and after breaking up in that relationship, you find out what you truly want from
Yeah.
love, from relationships, from your life, and that's where the true love comes in. Thirdly, because you know what you want, you've had time to figure out what you actually want and what you need,
Yeah.
and you can manifest that in whatever way, and that's where the true love comes in, and that's, you know, that's
So
where it comes from.
maybe,
So, you know, third time lucky for you. We'll see.
yeah, let's hope so. I feel like you've just been a bit of a fortune teller there, like going back through my life. Although I think that was both mine are kind of like a mixture of the two. It's a bit of a weird one, but no, the next one will be the one.
We'll see. Don't put too much pressure on it though.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressures.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Elle, before we wrap up the podcast, I do have a few more questions. First of all, what is your advice for young people? Obviously, I'd say you're a fairly wise head on shoulders. Is that the right phrase? I don't know what, but yeah, you're fairly wise, or you've had your experiences and stuff, and obviously you have the sort of backing of all your followers on your Truly Twenties page. So you've had a lot of perspectives come at you. Let's say that. What would be your key piece of advice to young people, to people our age, to people all throughout their 20s, really, on you know, how they can live happy and fulfilled?
Okay, so I'm going to say this and then hear me out. So, because it can sound a bit, like a bit negative, but I would say people don't care as much as you think. And I don't mean that in the way that people don't care about you. I mean it in the way that people really will not care about what you're doing as much as you think they are. So if you want to start something and you're scared of people's opinions or like what people are saying about you, people really don't care as much as you think. And if they do, I can guarantee when whatever you're doing is a success, or like you get older and people mature, people will actually just look back at them caring so much and cringe at themselves. I've found so many people from high school that if I'd have started, I wouldn't have started Truly Twenties in high school because I wouldn't have been in my 20s. But say if I started something like that, they probably would have judged, and they were the type of people that would have judged. But now they'll follow it, and they love it. So it's kind of just do what you want to do and really don't care about the people around you, because you're going to grow up and you're going to wish that you started it earlier, I think.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. He was saying that when I first started Happy Days, that he couldn't believe it, because I was like putting myself out there. Like before I was just Callum Church, and now I'm Callum Church the podcaster, you
Yeah.
know. And he just couldn't believe that I'd put myself out there for, you know, in the way of judgment, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, you cannot care about that. First of all, people don't really care anyway, like you say. But if people
Yeah.
do, fuck those people. Those people
Yeah.
do not
Screw
matter
them.
to you. If they really
Yeah.
don't care for what you're doing, or like, because surely it's going to be based around something positive. If they
Yeah.
take a negative from your positive, then what's that say about them? What's that say
Yeah.
about their lives? They're just negative
So true.
people.
Yeah. And you really don't want people like that in your circle. You don't really want to care about people like that. I can't imagine being someone that sees someone happy and like going for something they've always wanted to do and like judging them for it from afar, especially if I don't know them. So I feel sorry for people like that, and that's how you should view people like that. And I just think, imagine if you didn't start something and you get to an old age and just think, what if that took off, and that could have been a whole different life for me. So you don't want to ever look back and regret something just because of people around you.
And you'll grow from it eventually as well, you know, like whether it's uncomfortable or not, starting up something, getting out your comfort zone and doing that, you'll grow as a person. And sure, it's quite daunting at first. Trust me, I was shitting my pants when I first started the podcast, but you know, like after the first couple of weeks, it was like, yeah, it's cool, I can do this, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And you get there, you know.
Have you always been quite a confident person?
No way, no way. I struggled a lot with anxiety, like through my college years, like really bad, you know, like really bad social anxiety, had no self-love for myself at all, you know, really wasn't taking care of myself. It's probably why I run this podcast, you know, it's kind of the message I wish I heard when I was younger.
You spark something within you. Well, that's like a massive success to you then for actually stepping out there, because I think I give this advice to just go for it and don't care what other people think, but I've always been someone that I've really not cared what people thought. Like it's been something that's come quite naturally to me. I've not really been an anxious person. I can get more low moods than being anxious, but I've always been quite like sure of myself. I did theatre, I've been quite a drama queen. So whenever I give that advice, I do sit back and think like it's quite easy for me to say. So it's good to hear from your perspective that you've put yourself out there, although that you weren't confident at all.
It's a muscle you can grow, you know, like everything in our lives. Your brains are malleable. You can train yourself to become more confident as a person, more outgoing, you know, more self-assured. You know, fortunately you were born with that, so that's awesome for you. But for anyone that is listening to this that don't feel like they believe in themselves enough to start something, like, just try and suspend that feeling for a moment. Just try and get past it. Shit your pants for a bit, and then it will be smooth sailing after that, you know. Exactly. And a lot of people say that fake it till you make it's quite toxic. It's not. It's such a good tactic.
100%. And I just also want to say, to add on to that, if you're kind of someone that's not as confident and it doesn't come naturally to you, and you're comparing yourself to someone that is quite naturally confident, just like Callum said, that your brain is like malleable and you can grow that muscle, those people that are naturally confident, they can have dips as well. And it's like it can go the opposite way. So don't compare yourself to the people that come across naturally confident, because they could be faking it till you make it. They also in the next few weeks could have something where their confidence just completely dips. So it's like just be in for yourself and take that leap of faith, and you really don't know where it'll take you.
100%. We're all on our own paths, you know. You can't compare the different paths, because someone might be slightly ahead, but you never know, you might catch up and be way past them in the future. Just focus on yourself, you know. Final question now, Elle, just to round off the podcast. I ask everyone this question. It's super cliche, super subjective for everyone, but it's a lot of fun to ask. I want to ask you, Elle, what's your meaning of life?
Ooh, it's a tough one. It is a tough one to end on. I think the meaning of life is your friends and family. At the end of the day, I think whatever success you have, as much as I can be goals driven and have so many things that I want to do in my life, at the end of the day, it would be nothing if I haven't got my friends and family. So the meaning of life to me, and something that I'm trying to value more. I think I value my friends a lot, and I need to spend more time with family, but they're the true meaning of life. They're the people that are going to be there for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. What a good way to round off the podcast, Elle. Where can we find you online? All your social media details and all that sort of stuff.
So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok with Truly Twenties and then an underscore. You can find a Facebook group, which is Truly Twenties, and also on LinkedIn, which is just Truly Twenties. Facebook's group's a closed group for people just to ask for advice and just celebrate things, and the rest are just quite either relatable or funny content. So up to you which one's the best for you.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys should definitely check those out, because you're doing awesome stuff on there, and it's super good content for people.
Thank you.
You know, I think it's a good opportunity for people to see that everyone struggles. We all live the same lives. There's so much bullshit on social media, and I think that Truly Twenties kind of gives us a little bit of a realistic view at where everyone's actually at, you know, instead of all the bullshit that we see. So you should definitely check that out. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on, Elle. It's been awesome, and I really appreciate your time, so thank you. So there you go. That's the end of the show. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on your podcasting app of choice so you can download and listen as each episode is released. If this episode helped you in any way, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe even leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show. But that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode, released shortly. Take care.